The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with subdued activity as representatives from dozens of star systems convened. The room was an architectural marvel, its walls made of crystalline panels that shimmered with the light of distant stars. At the center of this grandeur stood the Council's main podium, a raised platform surrounded by concentric tiers where the delegates sat. It was a symbol of order and unity, though today the atmosphere was charged with skepticism and disdain. Chairman Zevark, his segmented exoskeleton catching the light like polished obsidian, clicked his mandibles impatiently. "Let us begin," he declared, his voice sharp and precise. "The matter before us is peculiar, to say the least. Humans, a species still relatively new to galactic affairs, appear to have an irrational aversion to war." A murmur rippled through the assembly. General Corrin, a hulking figure whose scales glinted like burnished copper, leaned forward with a sneer that exposed his razor-sharp teeth. "Aversion? Call it what it is, Chairman. Cowardice. They lack the spine to stand and fight. A disgrace to the Council." Ambassador THRYNN, a slender figure draped in robes of iridescent feathers, tilted his head. His golden eyes reflected a rare mixture of curiosity and concern. "Cowardice may be an oversimplification, General. Perhaps there is wisdom in their restraint. A deeper understanding of their history might reveal the truth." Zevark gestured to the far side of the chamber, where a smaller platform rose into view. On it stood Council Historian Rector, his 6 spindly arms holding various holographic devices. His tone was measured, almost clinical, as he began his presentation. The species known as Homo sapiens has a history marked by extraordinary violence. Their early development was rife with tribal conflicts, territorial wars, and catastrophic global confrontations. However, in the last century, their behavior shifted. Diplomatic solutions replaced militaristic ones. Their capacity for destruction remains unmatched, yet they now appear reluctant to wield it. A holographic projection materialized above Rector, displaying images of Earth's past. Mushroom clouds rising over devastated cities, trenches carved into scarred landscapes, and fleets of starships bristling with weaponry. The imagery was both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Corrin snorted. "They've grown soft. All this talk of peace is nothing more than an excuse to avoid the inevitable. When conflict comes, and it always does, they'll crumble." "Perhaps," THRYNN said, his voice calm but firm, "or perhaps they've learned the true cost of war in ways we cannot fathom. It is unwise to judge without understanding." Zevark's mandibles twitched, his irritation barely concealed. "Enough conjecture. Let us hear from the humans themselves. Summon their representative." The chamber door slid open with a soft hiss, and a lone figure entered. Commander Alex Ward strode forward, his expression calm, his posture unyielding. His uniform was simple compared to the ornate attire of the council members, yet it carried an air of quiet authority. Ward stopped at the center of the platform, his piercing blue eyes sweeping the room. He had been briefed on the council's attitudes, their doubts and derision. None of it surprised him. He clasped his hands behind his back and spoke with measured confidence. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, I am Commander Alex Ward, representing humanity. You've called us here to address your concerns about our reluctance to engage in war. Allow me to clarify." Zevark leaned forward, his voice dripping with skepticism. "Clarify? Are you here to defend your species' refusal to fight?" Ward's gaze met the chairman's unflinchingly. "We do not refuse to fight. We choose not to, unless absolutely necessary. There is a difference." The chamber fell silent. Even Corrin, who had been prepared to interrupt with another insult, found himself listening. Ward continued, his voice steady but carrying a weight that commanded attention. "Humanity has fought wars that tore our world apart. We've seen the devastation, the loss, the unimaginable suffering. We learned that war is not a game to be played lightly. When we fight to survive, not to conquer. And when we seek peace, it is not out of fear, but out of understanding. THRNN's feathers ruffled slightly, a sign of intrigue. Understanding, Commander? Elaborate on this. Ward nodded. We understand the cost of war because we've paid it time and again. Entire generations lost. Ecosystems destroyed. We've seen what happens when conflict spirals out of control. And so, we resolved to avoid it whenever possible. Not because we're weak, but because we know the strength it takes to seek another way. Corin's claws scraped against the edge of his podium, his voice a growl. And what happens when another way is not possible? When an enemy stands before you, blade drawn, demanding submission, will your understanding save you then? Ward's jaw tightened, but he remained composed. When no other way remains, we will fight. And we will fight with everything we have. But we will never choose war as our first solution. That is the difference between strength and recklessness, General. The tension in the room was palpable. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Zevark broke the silence, his mandibles clicking in contemplation. Your words are persuasive, Commander. But words alone are not enough. The Council requires proof. If your species is truly as capable as you claim, then you will have no trouble demonstrating it. Ward inclined his head slightly. What do you propose? A sly smile spread across Zevark's face. There is a matter that requires immediate attention. A hostile force threatens one of our neutral territories. Humanity will take the lead in its defense. Prove your worth, Commander, or confirm our suspicions. Ward's expression didn't waver. Very well. We accept. As the council members exchanged glances, a mix of curiosity and doubt lingering in their expressions, Ward turned and strode out of the chamber. The Galactic Council had posed its challenge, and humanity would answer. What they failed to realize was that the answer might change their perception forever. The Zarnok swarm descended like a storm on the outer edges of the neutral Marni system, their fleet a churning mass of organic ships bristling with bioweapons. These creatures, a species born of chaos and driven by an insatiable hunger for conquest, were infamous for reducing entire star systems to ruin. The Galactic Council watched the unfolding crisis with a mix of morbid curiosity and silent judgment. At the heart of it all was humanity, tasked with defending the system and proving their mettle. Aboard the UES Resolute, humanity's flagship, Commander Alex Ward stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the tactical display hovering before him. The hologram projected a grim reality. The Zarnok fleet vastly outnumbered his own. Ward's forces consisted of a modest task force, 5 frigates, 2 cruisers, and 1 carrier. Hardly a match for the riding swarm of organic monstrosities heading their way. Yet his expression remained unreadable, a mask of calm concealing the storm of calculations racing through his mind. Commander, Lieutenant Marcus Hale said, his tone edged with tension, the Zarnok will enter the system's inner orbit in less than 3 hours. If they breach the civilian zones, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Ward turned to his second-in-command, a man as sharp as the blade he carried on ceremonial occasions. Lieutenant, send orders to the fleet. We'll execute the Hydra Protocol. I want decoy drones deployed immediately and our stealth frigates flanking their vanguard. Hale hesitated. The Hydra Protocol? With respect, sir, that tactic hasn't been tested in an engagement of this scale. Ward's voice hardened. It will be today. The Zarnok thrive on chaos. They expect brute force, not precision. If we give them chaos on our terms, we can exploit their aggression. Hale nodded, though the doubt in his eyes lingered. Yes, sir. I'll see it done. As the orders rippled through the fleet, Ward took a moment to study the bridge crew. Young faces, many of them hardened by the rigorous training Earth's military demanded, but untested in actual combat. He could see the fear in their eyes, but also the determination. It was a delicate balance, one he had to maintain if they were to survive. He stepped to the communications console and opened a fleet-wide channel. His voice, calm and steady, carried through the void to every ship under his command. This is Commander Ward. I won't lie to you. what we face today is unlike anything most of you have seen. The Zarnok are relentless, merciless, and they will test us in ways we've never been tested before. But remember this, we are not here to die. We are here to defend the innocent, to prove that humanity does not break under pressure. Trust in your training, trust in each other, and trust in our resolve. Let's show them what we're made of. Ward out. The effect was immediate. The tension on the bridge eased slightly as the crew straightened in their seats, their fear tempered by resolve. The first clash came swiftly and without warning. The Zarnok Vanguard, a cluster of small, agile attack ships, swept into the system, probing for weaknesses. Ward's decoy drones activated, mimicking the signatures of larger ships and drawing the swarm into a carefully laid trap. As the Zarnok broke formation to pursue the false targets, humanity's stealth frigate struck with surgical precision, their railguns slicing through the organic vessels like scalpels through flesh. On the bridge, Hale reported the results with a note of cautious optimism. Vanguard neutralized. Minimal casualties on our side. Ward allowed himself a brief nod of approval. Good. But that was the easy part. Prepare for the main fleet. They'll adapt quickly. And adapt they did. The Zarnok fleet surged forward, their organic ships shifting shape mid-flight, forming a living phalanx that absorbed the brunt of humanity's attacks. Their bioweapons fired in grotesque bursts, raining acidic spores and corrosive projectiles onto Ward's fleet. The Resolute shuddered as one such projectile grazed its shields, sending a ripple of energy through the ship. Shields holding, but we can't take too many hits like that, Hale warned. Ward's mind raced, analyzing the battlefield. He tapped into the fleet's sensor array, noting the Zarnok's movements. They were concentrating their forces on the carrier, the largest and most vulnerable target. It was a predictable tactic, one he intended to exploit. Redirect power to the carrier's forward shields and have it execute a slow retreat, Ward ordered. Make it look like we're falling back. Meanwhile, reposition the cruisers to flank their sides. When they overcommit, we'll spring the trap. The maneuver was daring, bordering on reckless, but Ward trusted his instincts. As the carrier began its feigned retreat, the Zarnok surged after it, their hunger for a decisive kill driving them forward. They didn't notice the cruisers sliding into position until it was too late. A coordinated barrage of missiles and railgun fire ripped through the swarm, shattering their phalanx and throwing their ranks into disarray. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the tide was turning. Then the Zarnok flagship emerged. It was a monstrosity, a massive vessel that pulsed with a sickly green light. Its arrival sent a ripple of fear through the fleet, and Ward felt the weight of its presence like a shadow over his soul. The flagship unleashed a torrent of bioweapons, crippling one of the cruisers and sending the rest of the fleet scrambling for cover. Sir, we've lost the Aegis. The flagship is targeting the carrier, Hale reported, his voice tight. Ward's jaw tightened. They couldn't afford to lose the carrier, but the flagship's firepower was overwhelming. Desperation clawed at the edges of his mind, but he forced it down. Desperation led to mistakes. Divert all power to the Resolute's forward railgun, he ordered. We'll take the flagship out ourselves. Hale hesitated, his eyes widening. Sir, if we miss. We won't miss. Ward cut him off. Target its core. Fire when ready. The Resolute's railgun charged, the energy building to a blinding crescendo. Time seemed to slow as the weapon fired, a lance of pure energy slicing through the void. It struck the flagship dead center, piercing its core and setting off a chain reaction that consumed the massive vessel in a fiery explosion. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Ward remained silent, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Zarnok fleet, disoriented and leaderless, began to retreat. They had won this battle, but Ward knew the war was far from over. As the debris of the flagship drifted through the void, Ward turned to his crew. Damage reports and casualty assessments. And get me a channel to the council. They'll want to hear about this. In the distance, The Zarnok swarm fled, but Ward felt no triumph, only the heavy weight of what had been necessary to ensure their survival. The Galactic Council had demanded proof, and humanity had delivered. Yet Ward couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The chamber of the Galactic Council was eerily silent, the weight of what they had witnessed pressing down on every delegate present. The holographic display in the center of the room still replayed fragments of the battle in the Marni system. Organic Zarnok ships bursting into fiery fragments, humanity's fleet maneuvering with ruthless efficiency, and finally, the detonation of the Zarnok flagship. Each image was a testament to the precision and ferocity of humanity under pressure. Chairman Zevark leaned back in his seat, his mandibles clicking softly in thought. His usual air of superiority was tempered now by something unfamiliar, unease. Beside him, General Corrin sat rigid, his scaled fist clenched tightly as his gaze fixed on the hologram. Ambassador THRYNN, in contrast, appeared contemplative, his golden eyes narrowed as if trying to unravel a puzzle whose solution had eluded him. The silence stretched until Zevark spoke, his voice sharper than usual. "Commander Ward," he began, turning his gaze to the human standing in the center of the chamber. "The Council has reviewed the events of the Marni's engagement. Your tactics were effective." The pause in his sentence betrayed his struggle to say the word. "But your actions raise questions. The destruction of the Zarnok flagship, the precision of your maneuvers. This was not the work of a species that fears war." Commander Alex Ward stood tall, his uniform still bearing the faint scorch marks from the battle. His expression was calm, unreadable, but there was a weight in his eyes that did not go unnoticed by the Council. "Chairman Zevark," he replied evenly, "humanity does not fear war. We understand it. There is a difference." General Corrin leaned forward, his voice a low growl that resonated in the vast chamber. "Understanding is meaningless if it does not translate into action. Your forces fought well, but tell me, Commander, why do your people cling so desperately to peace when you are clearly capable of such destruction?" Ward met Corrin's glare without flinching. "Because destruction is not strength, General. Any species can wage war. True strength lies in knowing when not to. Humanity has seen war at its worst. We've destroyed ourselves time and again, only to rebuild. Every victory we've won has come at a cost we can never forget. Peace is not a sign of weakness. It is the prize we bled for." A murmur rippled through the assembly, some delegates nodding in quiet agreement, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Ambassador THRYNN rose from his seat, his feathered robe shimmering as he moved. "Your words carry weight, Commander," he said softly, his tone almost musical. "But they are words nonetheless. What guarantees can humanity offer that this balance you speak of will endure? That the power you wield will not consume you, as it has so many others?" Ward's gaze shifted to THRYNN, his expression softening slightly. "There are no guarantees, Ambassador. Humanity is not perfect. We've made mistakes, and we will make more. But what sets us apart is our capacity to learn, to adapt. Every war we've fought has taught us something, and we carry those lessons with us. It's not about avoiding conflict at all costs. It's about choosing our battles wisely and ensuring that when we do fight, it's for something that matters." THRYNN inclined his head, his feathers ruffling slightly in acknowledgement. "And what, Commander, do you believe matters most?" Without hesitation, Ward answered, "The preservation of life, the defense of those who cannot defend themselves, the belief that even in the darkest moments, there is a light worth fighting for." For a moment, the chamber was silent again, the weight of Ward's words hanging in the air. Then Zevark's mandibles clicked sharply as he turned to address the assembly. "The Council must decide. Humanity has demonstrated its capability in combat, but we must determine whether their philosophy aligns with the values of this body. Are they allies we can trust, or a force we must monitor closely?" As the delegates began to deliberate, Ward stood motionless, his gaze fixed on the holographic display. The images of the battle flickered and shifted, but his mind was elsewhere. He thought of the lives lost in the Marnie system, both human and alien, and the decisions that had led to that moment. Every move he had made, every order he had given, weighed on him like a physical burden. Finally, Zavark turned back to him, his voice sharp. "Commander Ward, you may address the Council one final time, before we vote." Ward stepped forward, his boots echoing in the vast chamber. He took a deep breath, his voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of emotion. "You've seen what humanity can do. You've seen our capacity for destruction, but also our ability to adapt and overcome. What you haven't seen is the reason behind it. We fight not because we want to, but because we must, because we know the price of inaction is far greater than the price of war." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "We are not perfect. We are flawed, driven by emotions and instincts we've struggled to master. But it is those very flaws that make us who we are. Our capacity for empathy, for sacrifice, for hope in the face of despair. These are the things that define us. You asked if we can be trusted. My answer is this: judge us not by our past or our fears, but by the choices we make when it matters most." The chamber fell silent once more as the council deliberated. The tension was palpable, the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone present. Finally, Zavark rose, his mandibles clicking in a gesture of reluctant approval. "The council has decided. Humanity will be granted full membership in this body, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. But know this, Commander. The eyes of the galaxy are upon you. Do not falter." Ward inclined his head. "We won't." As he turned to leave the chamber, the murmurs of the council faded behind him. The weight of their judgment lingered, but so did something else, a quiet sense of triumph. Humanity had proven itself, not through raw power, but through the strength of its principles. And as Ward stepped into the corridor beyond, he couldn't help but feel that this was only the beginning.